So we're here on what is now a beautifully sunny day, but while we've been here, there's been rain and hail and nearly 4 seasons in one day. But we're with Jeremy Scott in his stables, the High Holworthy Farm, just outside of Brompton Regis. A fantastic location to train racehorses, Jeremy, but you've lived here for a very long time.
Yeah, well, I was pretty well conceived here, so yes, all my life.
And when you first were here and back in those early days, it was a dairy farm, and you still farm to a certain extent, but when did the racing bug take hold?
I think we used it as an excuse to get off the farm, so we started pointing, and that was our excuse to get away from work, really. So that was when we were pretty nearly first married, so that was probably nearly sort of 30 years ago.
And it's a big family affair, isn't it? Camilla, I know, has been in the racing game for a while, point-to-point training, and I think until recently was training point-to-pointers as well here. It's quite interesting having gone around the stables this morning. You've got plenty of facilities here. Has that built up over a number of years?
Yeah, I mean, we started with nothing at all, so we've put in, originally a uphill all-weather half a mile, and then we've got a circular schooling ring, and lately we've put a deep sand gallop in. So yeah, we try and do something every year that just helps.
Well, let's talk about the career in racing, as it were. I said earlier on that you've had 410 winners trained from here, which is magnificent. But it's even better when you think that's been achieved with just 296 individual horses. Where do you get your horses from?
Predominantly, we've been buying in Ireland. We like to buy young horses and bring them along slowly if we can. But yes, owners have put horses with us, which has been great, and more lately Tom Malone's put in a couple to us. So yeah, variety of ways, but we love bringing on young horses.
Well, let's go with the first winner I came across under rules, which was County Derry. Now, I've just been around your beautiful home, and I saw a picture of County Derry where it says he did it his way. Was he a bit of a difficult horse?
He was a bit of a worrier, and he could make it look quite hard work when he was racing. But he was a wonderfully consistent horse, and he was actually Gary Lever's first horse, and he won first time out for him, which gave Gary the bug. But he managed to turn up to Cheltenham year in, year out, running the Fox Hunters, and gave us a really wonderful journey. So he was a fabulous horse.
And over the next few years, I noticed you had a number of runners under rules, still with the point-to-point scene as well, obviously. A number of winners in the early days. But it was around about 2007, 2008, where I saw the number of winners, number of runners improve. And that's about the time you started to be professional.
Yeah, and we trained alongside Chris Popham, who'd had a back injury, and he was sort of instrumental in helping us set up, actually, and he actually sourced us not only County Derry but Gone to Lunch. Very good eye for a horse, and a really good mate, actually. But he got us going, and once we'd sort of found our feet, alongside him, we set out on our own.
Then the next horse I want to talk about on this journey, where we find ourselves here today with, was a horse who I noticed because it won the 32 Red Tolworth Hurdle. We sponsored it back in the day. That's Melodic Rendezvous. That was your first Grade 1 winner.
Yeah, and that was winning the Tolworth was a really good milestone to get underneath your belt. But yeah, he was a wonderful horse. Loved the soft ground. Every time we ran him on quicker ground, he struggled. But we had a wonderful year after we won the Tolworth the following season, and we had those lovely Champion Hurdle trials, and there were sort of 3 and a bounce we managed to win. Came unstuck in the fighting fifth, but again that was ground. But he really was a good horse without actually being quite the very, very top level. But he was gave us again another good journey with a wonderful bunch of young, enthusiastic owners.
Well, talking about Melodic Rendezvous, not quite getting to the kind of Grade 1 continuous races, there is a horse that I want to talk next to who really was there every single race, but whether it be hurdles or fences, Dashel Drasher, who won the Betfair, the Ascot Chase, back in 2021, also came second in a Stayers Hurdle, but he was, I always didn't know whether he was better at hurdles or or chasing? What did you kind of think?
Well, I mean, he won the Grade 1 at Ascot, as you say, over fences. But yeah, he was very versatile, and we sort of chopped and changed between the two, and probably his efforts over hurdles actually were probably slightly stronger than his chase form. But I always felt that he should be a better chaser than maybe it turned out to be, and I probably made the mistake of trying to get him over fences. But he was tough as teak, wasn't he? And he was a very, very popular horse with the public. He tended to go out in front and just kept his head bowed low and did his level best. And he's a very special horse.
Let's talk about that day last year when she won the Unibet Champion Hurdle. First of all, I want to ask, how big a decision was it to run her in that race as opposed to the Mares' Hurdle?
Well, in the end, it probably wasn't my decision. It was Ian Gosden's decision. But he, heart of hearts, he had his heart set on the Champion Hurdle. But I felt that the Mares' Hurdle was a much easier option in terms of winning. Whether we'd have beaten Lossiemouth, I'd be surprised if we would have done. But the decision did hinge on where Lossiemouth declared, because I think if she'd declared in the Champion Hurdle, we probably almost certainly would have got in the Mares. But anyway, Ian made that decision, and I'm very glad he did, actually.
Fortune favours the brave, and as it proved in the race itself, an incredible race to watch. It must even be more so for a trainer who actually ends up with the winning horse. What was it like for you when you were watching the race and how it unfolded?
Well, running up to the race, I mean, every now and again you sort of think, God, I wonder what it'd be like if we did actually manage to win. And they said, don't be so ridiculous, Jeremy. It's never, ever going to happen. We're just not that level. And it was fortune that got us where we were. Having said that, I thought she was running a very good race. State Man coming down sealed the race for us. I don't think we'd have been that far behind him anyway, but so she'd have run a very good race. It was the most bizarre 5 minutes, I think, to watch. I said at the time it was like having a dream, and then you feel in a minute you'll wake up. How ridiculous was that dream? But it was a bizarre moment. But I'm very glad we ran, and I thought she ran very creditably anyway, and thankfully everybody was all right.
Okay, let's talk about Golden Ace this year. Golden Ace won at 25-1. She's now as low as 7-1 because of what's been happening. She doesn't know any of that. She's been to the racecourse a couple of times and disappointed on her seasonal debut. I was very worried for her that day because she was beaten a long way out. What can you tell us about that performance in a two-runner race at Weatherby?
Subsequently turned out that she scoped dirty at the racecourse after the race, because I thought we had her so well, and I was convinced she'd run well. Look, two-runner races are always very tactical, and we subsequently found that she was a bit mucky. Once we treated her, she came right for the fighting fifth. But it explained why she didn't run as well as we thought. But it was a bit of a shocker at the time.
She went up to Newcastle for the fighting fifth and was running a good race. Looking at her form, she does seem to run better at the turn of the year. So it must have been, she was going well. Whether she would have won, do you think she would have won if the new line had stayed up?
End of the day, it's always conjecture, isn't it? So, at the point that the new line came down, I don't think you could say either way who would have run, because actually probably, Amsterdam looked to be running as well as anybody, and you'd have said at that point possibly he would have gone on and won, because he was the one that hadn't come off the bridle. So I couldn't say whether or not we'd have beaten him, but I don't think there'd have been a lot in it, quite frankly.
Well, let's talk about her on the gallops today. We saw her walking and then cantering on the all-weather that you have. What would you do now in the next 3 weeks? How do you prepare a horse in the final 3 weeks for a championship event?
So she in particular is much happier actually up on the grass. So we will get her up on the grass probably a couple of times a week, 3 times a week maybe. We gave her a really good piece of work on the weekend just gone. Probably, you're not going to be doing too much more with her. She's fit. So we'll probably just stick on the grass, possibly give her a racecourse gallop if we feel she needs it. But I think, knowing the mare, she's not a horse that you've really got to gallop too much. Probably the important thing is to have her feeling really fresh and well.
There's a really interesting comment I read earlier on that says you still don't think she's at her best. You still think there's improvement to come.
Well, I don't think she was at her best last year. We never were totally happy with her, and I think by the time we got sort of towards Punchestown, we were feeling that she was pretty nearly there. You know, especially that was what's so frustrating about Weatherby, was she was going so well before Weatherby, which is why it was so disappointing. Again, forgetting about Weatherby, Newcastle, and then the Christmas Hurdle. Running up to both those races, I felt she was better than we ever had her last year.
It's got a fair history of horses that win it 2 years on a bounce. So let's hope that Golden Ace will be the next one.
Well, that would be someday, wouldn't it? I was talking to somebody the other day, and they said, look, if you could have 12 hours and you had the benefit of Triton travel to go and do all the things you'd like to do in one day before you died, 1 hour I would devote to having that hour of winning the Champion Hurdle back. It's just some experience.